Hey, what's up guys, Soldier Knows Best here. Let me go ahead and get this out the way. I really like this phone. I mean, the OnePlus 7 Pro is a fantastic phone that does most of the things right, a couple of things wrong, but for the most part, for the price, you're getting a very capable phone. But this is the most expensive phone that OnePlus has ever released, and a lot of people are kind of concerned about that, whether or not OnePlus can stay true to itself while releasing a bigger phone to compete against some of the other top dogs in the market. So in this review, I'm going to find out the answer to this question and see how good this phone is and whether or not it's worth the price of admission for OnePlus standards. So let's go ahead and jump right into this review. So the first thing I love about this phone is the way it looks. And when you look on the back of the phone, you see a very interesting touch to the glass. Yes, that is glass on the back, but it's not going to be super glossy. It's kind of a mix between matte and glossy. And so OnePlus does some type of unique treatment to the glass to get this particular look. And I have to say, when you combine that with this new Nebula blue color, it's just something that I just refuse to put a case on because I just want to keep looking at the back of this phone. But it also comes in a couple other different colors, including mirror gray and also almond. All right, so let me stop admiring the back of this phone because I'm starting to get a little excited here. But no, on the right hand side of the phone, you're going to find that very handy alert slider, which can allow you to switch between silent and ring and also vibrate. And then below that, you're going to find that power button. And then on the left hand side, you're going to find the volume controls. And on the bottom, you're going to find the USB-C port, the dual SIM card tray, and also one of the dual stereo speakers. And the other one's going to be at the top of the phone right above the display. Now, while we're looking at the top of the display, we don't see a notch. You don't see any type of pinhole cutouts in the display, nothing like that. It's just all screen on the front of this phone. And that's because OnePlus has hidden the front facing camera actually inside the body of this phone. And now it is a pop-up camera. So when you do go to activate selfie mode in the camera app, it will go ahead and pop up, and it will pop up when you're using facial recognition to unlock your phone. And so it pops up pretty quickly, especially when you compare it to other pop-up cameras like the one on the Oppo Find X. It goes up pretty quickly and goes down, and it makes just a little bit of tiny noise there, but nothing to be too distracting. And also, if you're worried about what happens if the camera is up when you drop it, well, this phone will sense when it is being dropped, and it will automatically retract that camera down and then give you a little indication on the screen to let you know that it did that and allow you to quickly pop that camera back up to continue what you were doing, or you can just let it stay down. And so anytime you add a moving piece or something, there are going to be concerns about durability, but OnePlus has said that they have tested this camera out and it should last you over 300,000 times. So that works out to using the camera 150 times per day. And so that's a pretty high number that most people probably wouldn't reach per day. But when it comes to durability, and something that we probably learned over this last year, Galaxy Fold, we just kind of have to wait to see until this phone starts to get into the hands of multiple people to see how well it holds up. But for right now, I have no concerns and I haven't had any issues. And so this phone gives me that same type of vibe that I had when I first picked up the Nexus 6 back in the day. And that phone is big even by today's standards, but the 7 Pro, just gives me that same feeling just compared to other smartphones. It's a little bit on the chunky side. Nothing that's a deal breaker, but it's something that I did notice. And so if a phone is going to have some extra weight, it better have some power coming behind that, and that definitely is the case with this 7 Pro. So on the inside of this phone, you will find the Qualcomm Snapdragon 855, up to 12 gigabytes of RAM. It also has a 4,000 milliamp hour battery, and also does have up to 256 gigabytes of storage. And so with this storage, I would have liked to see it bumped up to 512 gigabytes, especially when you have phones coming with a terabyte of storage. But I definitely respect the fact that OnePlus isn't trying to price gouge you for extra storage, because it only charges you an extra $30 to double your storage. But I still think at least having a 512 gigabyte option would have been great, especially since this phone does not have a micro SD card slot. But one trick that OnePlus does have up its sleeve in regards to the storage is that it's going to be one of the first, if not the first phone to ship with UFS 3.0 storage. So this means that you're going to get way faster read and write speeds compared to the kind of current standard, which is UFS 2.1, which is in all the other latest phones, including the Galaxy S10 and also the iPhone XS. Now, something else that is fast on this phone is the display, and before I get to talking why that is, the display by itself is one of the best looking displays that you can get on a smartphone. And I didn't think that I would be saying this so soon about a OnePlus phone, but it arguably can have the best all-around display when it comes to color, brightness, and just the overall clarity of it. But when you throw in the fact that this display has a refresh rate of 90 Hertz, this means that the display is going to be really silky smooth as you're moving throughout the operating system and scrolling up and down and left and right, and all the different animations and things like that are kind of just going to feel like they're just predicting what you're going to do because they're happening that fast. And I can't really show you how this looks on video, but if you can go to the T-Mobile store and get your hands on this phone, or even go to the Apple store and try out one of the iPad Pros, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. Now, even though 90 Hertz is well above the average refresh rate of 60 Hertz on smartphones, it's not going to be coming close to what you can get on something like the Razer Phone 2 that can run at 120 Hertz. But I think OnePlus hit a really good spot here because the higher refresh rate that your phone has is going to be draining your battery more. So 90 Hertz looks like a good spot to give you that experience of that silky smoothness, but also to still maintaining your battery life. But one thing this phone could have benefited from was a variable refresh rate, because you do get that on the Razer phone. So that means that the phone is going to adjust the refresh rate depending on what you're doing. And the only option that you have on this 7 Pro is to be able to change from 90 Hertz down to 60 Hertz if you want to save more of your battery. But with all that being said, when you're holding this big 6.67-inch AMOLED display in your hand and you don't see a notch, you don't see any type of cutouts, it's a really good experience, especially when you're playing games or watching movies. And yeah, there are phones that have a higher refresh rate, but they don't bring the same type of quality throughout the entire display like this one, and that's why this is one of my favorite displays that I've ever used. Now, before I move on from the display, let's take a look at that in-screen fingerprint scanner, because OnePlus first introduced this on the 6T, and it was okay at the beginning, and through a number of different software updates, it got better and better. But the one on this 7 Pro is the first in-display fingerprint scanner that has me 100% sold on this technology, because it's not only faster than the one on the 6T, even though it's just a little bit faster, it's also more accurate, and that's because they have increased the surface area, so you're less likely to mess up on placing your finger just a little bit outside of it, so it's not going to read it correctly. Now, I don't have to think about it. I just place my finger where I generally think it needs to be. And this phone does give you haptic feedback when you use a fingerprint sensor, so when you correctly do it, it gives you a little bit of a vibration. And just the haptic feedback across the entire phone has been improved 200%. So it's a way stronger motor than the one that was in the 6T, so you really feel that across the entire phone. And because I know a lot of you out there want to know this very critical piece of information, and that is that my incoming call vibration pattern is I'm stupid. And so it's so fast that it feels like it's already unlocked before I fully put my finger down. So I honestly thought that facial recognition was going to be kind of the primary way that we use to unlock our phones going forward. But if this becomes kind of the standard when it comes to the speed and performance on other phones, that they can somehow match OnePlus, I think this is going to be the way to go. All right, so next up, let's talk about the battery performance. So this phone has that 4,000 milliamp hour battery inside of it. And because of the way I use my phone, I normally have the phone up at very high brightness, and also I keep it at that 90 Hertz setting for the display. The phone doesn't truly last me all day long, but it gets through the majority of the day for me. But a good thing is that it is using their Warp Charge 30 fast charging technology that they debuted with the OnePlus 6T McLaren edition last year. So this means that you can top off your phone in no time. I mean, really, you can kind of watch the battery recharge in real time. That's how fast it is. So now let's move on to the camera portion of this review. So I've already showed you the new pop-up front-facing camera, but on the back, OnePlus has added one more camera. So now they bumped up the total from 2 to 3. And so this third camera is a ultra-wide camera, so you can get a lot more inside of your frame. And this is very useful for not having to physically move back to get a lot of people or a lot of things in your shot. Now you can just change to this camera angle and you're all set. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, this phone allows you to get even closer to your subject, because instead of having the standard 2x optical zoom on phones, this one has 3x optical zoom. So yeah, you can get up close and personal on your subject without having to move forward. Now you will also see a difference in pictures that you take in portrait mode on this 7 Pro compared to the OnePlus 6T. And that's basically because of the difference in focal length. So on this 7 Pro, you'll see that your subject and also the background is going to be a lot closer to you, where on the 6T, you're going to see that that subject in the background is going to be pushed back a little bit further from you. And now this leads me to talk about just the general quality of the photos and videos. So originally I didn't see a significant difference between the photos coming out of the 6T when I bumped up to this 7 Pro. But when you start to look closer, you do see a little bit more sharpness, and also too, it handles HDR a lot better. And then when I looked at some of the 4K video that I took on this phone, I just found that it was a little too processed. And so the cameras on this phone are very capable. It's just that when you look at other flagship phones and even phones like the Pixel 3a that starts at $399 $299, you start to see where the 7 Pro, I mean, if you had to find one weak spot of this phone, it'll probably be the cameras. And when I say weak, it's just compared to everything else well that this phone does, the cameras just leave me wanting a little more. Now, if somebody asked me to name one thing about OnePlus phones that separate them from everybody else, I have to say that it's their software. And that's because they have their own Oxygen OS, which runs on top of Android 9. And this is an operating system that is extremely lightweight. And it really honors what the core of stock Android is, but OnePlus puts their little extra flavor on top of it to make it be different just enough, but not too much. And so this time around, we do have some new features in this software, including a built-in screen recorder. So you can record yourself playing a video game and then upload that to YouTube or Facebook. So one thing I would add to this is the option to be able to hide this recording indicator, because it just stays on your screen when you are recording the video. You don't see that in the final product though. But besides that, it works fine. And then there's also this new Fanatic mode, which is an enhanced gaming mode. So you get better do not disturb, and it's also going to prioritize your cellular strength, so you're going to have better low latency gaming when you're playing multiplayer games on the go. And then there's also something in the software that will allow you to get away from your phone, and this is called Zen mode. So this forces you not to be able to use your phone for 20 minutes. Now you can still use the phone to make emergency phone calls and also use the camera if you really need to, but everything else is off the table because you're just going to be sitting there looking at your phone with this little countdown timer. So if you are someone that has a hard time getting away from your phone, this can definitely help with that. And so besides these few things, the rest of the software feels very familiar. It even feels untouched, at least visually, because OnePlus really focuses on what's underneath that software to give you this really smooth experience. And you combine that with getting this phone with up to 12 gigabytes of RAM, and you throw that in with the RAM boost. I haven't had to close out any apps while I've been using this phone because I didn't notice any type of decrease in performance with having a bunch of things open. And then also that super fast storage that you get, and this phone has a display that's running at 90 hertz that really makes the software feel even faster. So yeah, I mean, when I look at everything with this OnePlus 7 Pro, this is OnePlus marking their territory in the kind of high-end smartphones, but they're doing it at a not high-end price. And so this phone has a starting price of $670 and it maxes out at $750. So OnePlus still has some room to play around with. I mean, you see other flagships starting at $1,000. This one still has $250 to add inside of it. So can you imagine if OnePlus put an extra $250 inside of this phone? It would be even crazier. And so even though I am satisfied with this price, that doesn't mean this phone still isn't missing some things, like it doesn't have wireless charging. It also doesn't have an official water resistance rating, like an IP rating, but they still feel confident that this phone will be just fine with most accidental contacts with water. And then this phone also does not have a headphone jack for those people who still want it. And so we may even see the OnePlus 7T Pro later this year. So who knows, maybe some of these things will make it into that phone. And so if you still don't even like the price of this, they still have the OnePlus 7, which is going to be a lower price and also have some of the new features that this phone has. So you can still pick that one up if you want. But for right now, I'm going to be rocking the 7 Pro for a little while. So I want to know what you think about this phone. So leave your comment down below, and also be sure to share this video and subscribe to me on YouTube, and also follow me on all my social media networks. Those links are down below as well. But like always, I do want to thank you for watching this video, and I will catch you later. Peace.